Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this year's 2021 Australasian Conference of Undergraduate Research, hosted by the Australian National University. My name is Caitlin McDonald, and it is my pleasure to MC this morning's opening ceremony on behalf of the conference organising team here at the ANU. I would first like to welcome Mr. Wally Bell to begin with a welcome to country.
Yuma. Hello. To begin with, I'm a Ngunawal man. I've grown up on country all my life. I began in a little place called Jurawa. It's there that I learned about being an Aboriginal person on country, as is our traditional customary practice. My dad took me out on country and taught me all about basic survival on country, all about bush tucker, bush medicines, where to get water, and basic survival skills. But that part of that learning process is also incorporates our story and our song lines and who we are as a people, and how we're connected to the land that we walk on. Now then, that has put me where I am today. I used to help my dad when he was with us, doing cultural heritage awareness type stuff, I guess, is the way you'd put it these days. But I went out with my dad telling story, as my dad was telling story. So we developed quite a good relationship with the wider community, especially in a place like Yass, where I actually grew up as well. My people then, the Ngunawal, we have occupied this region for at least 25,000 years. We've lived on an area of something like 17,000 square kilometres. We have 7 different clan groups. My clan group are the Yar people from Yass. So when you put all that into perspective, I guess you're looking at a pretty large community that occupied this area. So to enable us to live in relative harmony, I guess, is we had to operate under what's known as communal law, LAW law. So that sort of told us how to interact with one another and maintain, really friendly relationships. But as Aboriginal people, we're only one tribal group of well over 400 different tribal groups right across Australia. Now we get all our customs and our belief systems from the land that we live on. So that in itself should tell you then that our cultural practice then is going to be quite different to other people right across Australia, other Aboriginal people that is. Even with our neighbouring tribal groups, cultural practice is going to be quite different. If you look at the Yuin people down on the coast, they have the land and the sea to incorporate into their cultural practice, whereas they're quite different to our environment, which is basically the land plus mountains. So you can see there's a clear distinction in the environments that we live in. So that's then it's going to be relational to our cultural practice. When you look at it right across Australia, then the same thing's going to happen everywhere. Like different cultural practice. Look at Central Australia, for instance, with the Arente people. They have deserts, so naturally they're going to have a different way of doing stuff. Totally different to the way we do stuff here on country. So that's something that people need to be aware of is the really diversified cultural practice of Aboriginal people Australia-wide. One of the things though that we have to abide by as Aboriginal people Australia-wide is what's known as our Traditional Customary Law. That's LORE. That law really tells us as what we have to do on country right across Australia, and it's that law is being passed down for generations now. So, as I said, we've been here for well over 25,000 years. That traditional customary practice is still being handed down these days. One of those practices is the welcome to country, which I'm about to do for you right now. I just want to give you a bit of a better idea of that because that comes under our law. And again, as I said, our cultures practice different. So does that. That means that the law is going to be practiced a bit different as well. So welcomes are going to be different wherever you go. So welcomes then are part of our customary law, so it has to be done. Now, a lot of people don't know what a welcome is. A lot of people think it's just me, for instance, before you right now as a representative of the Ngunawal people saying, hey, welcome to Ngunawal country. Great place to be. Enjoy yourselves. But really, there's a lot more to it because of the fact that under our law, we not only are obliged to welcome you onto country, but we also have to make sure that you're safe and protected while you're here as well. Now that means my clan group, as I said, we're going to do it slightly differently to other clan groups maybe, and the rest of Aboriginal Australia. The way that my clan group do it is we offer you a protection in two forms. That comes in a physical protection and a spiritual protection. Okay, so now the physical protection, we're going to ask for our spirit of the land to look after you as you're walking around on country. And, just to make sure that nothing physical happens to you, no broken legs or anything like that as you're getting out there and having a look at this beautiful country. The other protection then is the spiritual protection. Now that's going to be taken care of by our ancestral spirits. Now there are past generations that have now reside in the land itself as well. Now our ancestral spirits, like I said then, under our belief systems, we as Aboriginal people know that we come from the land. We're here for a short period to look after it. We become custodians of the land and carers of the country. So when our time is up in the physical sense, we then return back to the land. So that's been occurring now for, thousands of years, generations and generations and generations. So that should give you an idea of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about our ancestral spirits. Okay. But to make sure that those spirits know I'm here giving a welcome to country, I have to make a little bit of noise and ask them to come and join me in looking after you while you're here on country. I make noise with clapsticks. Sick. Okay. My being an Ngunawal man, and I do a lot of work on country. I have really strong ties with my land. I can now feel that those spirits have joined us. Hopefully you can feel those spirits with us as well. especially if you're here on Ngunawal country. Virtually, I don't know how it works, but I trust in my spirits. As I said then, the spirit of the land's now going to look after you as you walk around on Ngunawal country, making sure nothing physical happens to you. Our ancestral spirits, what they do is, because under our belief systems, we know there's bad spirit out on country. Everybody looking on and listening to me at this moment, you have your own personal aura. Now that's something you carry with you all the way through your life. And you know at times you don't feel that good, sad or sick or something. And that's because we know that that bad spirit, which you can't see or touch, is latched onto your aura. So we got to get rid of it. So that's where we get our ancestral spirits to have a look at everybody at this moment. And if they find that bad spirit, they just grab hold of it and toss it off country, get rid of it. So we don't want it here, because we don't want it to affect you as a person. And we certainly don't want it to affect the land that you're on. The spirits then ask that you do two things while you're on country. First one, important one, respect this place that you're in. You've got to look after it, take care of it, as we have done for thousands of years. Second thing they ask of you is also to respect and be kind and courteous to other people that you meet while you're on country. So if you do these two things for us, the spirits will then harmonise with your stay on Ngunawal country. So may the spirits be with you today, tomorrow, and for always. I'll close off with some words in language. Dalawa nunda, dalawa Ngunawal, Nyangu Nalaweri, Dunamayan, Yomulundi. This land is Ngunawal land. We've all come together today to talk. Welcome. John Yamaba, thank you.
Thank you, Wally. The conference organisers wish to acknowledge and celebrate the first Australians on whose traditional lands and over whose airwaves we meet, and pay our respects to elders past and present. Thank you again, Wally, for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.
We're now delighted to introduce Helen Wilson, the Deputy Australian Statistician at the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Helen has spent over 14 years working in the Australian Public Service, including in the Treasury and the Department of the Department of Environment and Energy, where she has worked on climate change, infrastructure, and monetary and fiscal policy. The Australian Bureau of Statistics are proudly sponsoring this year's ACUR conference, and this conference would not be possible without their generous support. Welcome, Helen.
Thanks so much, Caitlin, and I'm delighted to be here, and we're really pleased to be a sponsor of this conference. And I just thought I'd tell you a little bit about the ABS and how we've evolved over the last 18 months. So the ABS has really demonstrated our unique value add over the last 18 months, beyond our role of producing high quality official statistics. We've delivered comprehensive, relevant and timely insights to government to give them an understanding of what is happening to individuals, to families and to business. I mean, who knew data matters? And we've been at the forefront of providing data to government to inform the economic and social recovery from the COVID pandemic. We're accessing new data sources from the private sector like banks and supermarkets, and that's enabling us to provide new monthly statistics. We're linking new data sets to our two really powerful data assets. We've got one on people and one on business, and that's helping answer policy challenges like what are the outcomes for students who complete VET qualifications? How can Australia build resilience in our supply chains? The COVID pandemic has really highlighted the complexity of global supply chains. And in the ABS, I've got a bunch of really smart, talented people who are collaborating with our colleagues in the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet to integrate and analyse trade, customs and freight data. We undertake major social surveys like the government's intergenerational health and mental health study. This is a multi-year study and will provide the most complete picture ever of Australians' health, including mental health. We're geospatially enabling all our socioeconomic data and linking it with natural hazard data from Geoscience Australia to better understand the threats posed by changing climate and help inform actions to limit impacts now and into the future. The data landscape is evolving rapidly, and the ABS is really committed to pushing the boundaries of what data can do for communities, business, and governments. So the ABS is just so much more than statistics, and we need really smart people interested in policy and data. And all I can do is encourage you to attend the session tomorrow at 3 o'clock. I think it's titled "Is More Than Statistics" at the Australian Bureau of Statistics, to find out more. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Helen, for joining us this morning and for your generous support in supporting more than 130 undergraduate students at this year's conference. It is our absolute pleasure to be working with you. It is now my pleasure to introduce Professor Grady Venville. As the Deputy Vice Chancellor at ANU, Professor Venville is responsible for the academic mission of the university, including academic standards and the delivery of an exceptional educational experience. We are delighted to welcome you to the conference, Professor.
Thanks so much, Caitlin, and thank you very much, Wally, for that welcome to country. Really appreciate it. And thank you also, Helen, for your generous support of the ACUR conference. It's really wonderful. Good morning, everyone. It's absolutely delightful to see you all here. Really wonderful to celebrate students involved in research. And I know that we have a lot of staff and students presenting at the conference, and that's just an absolute delight for me to see. And I know that the ACUR has a long history and does a lot for research and really bringing along the young, I guess, researchers into new occupations and also into academia as well, where we do need people who are really great researchers, and it's such a fun thing to do. I'm going to very briefly talk about Australian National University. I know probably the majority of the people here are from Canberra and from ANU, but we also have visitors. So a very warm welcome to all of you to the Australian National University and to the ACUR conference. I just want to talk a little bit about the importance of research to the university, exactly as Helen was saying, and the importance of data and how we understand the world. And so in the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to give a bit of a background about myself as a researcher and an academic, and then look at the Australian National University's newly developed ANU 2025 strategic plan and the importance of research and research within education in that plan, and pull that all together in a way that shows the importance of research to everything that we do in the university. So first of all, a little bit about myself as a researcher and academic. I started my career as education, I should say, by doing a Bachelor of Science with a major in botany, which is plant science. They used to call it botany, they don't seem to call it that anymore. And I actually became a secondary school science teacher by doing a diploma of education. And I love teaching maths and science in schools. And then I came back to university and did a PhD in science education. And that my career pivoted back to the tertiary sector. And I've been in the tertiary sector working in universities since about the turn of the last century, since about 2000. And my research has continued in education. I really love, have really enjoyed doing research about how people learn. And this is similar, links back to some of the things that Wally said about how people from all different cultures learn. And I think that's a really important thing in education, that different people learn in different ways. And And for teachers and educators, we need to take that into to consideration. It's been a great joy of my life to work deeply with primary school, secondary school and tertiary university educators, and to understand what the best approaches are to education, and that helps students to really engage in what they're learning. So I've been at the Australian National University for 3 years now, first as Pro-Vice Chancellor Education, and then since the beginning of 2020 as Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic. And so my job, as Caitlin said, is to really steer the university in the direction we need to go for the future in terms of education. And I think that being a research intensive university, and this is generally agreed across the whole university, that the nexus, or bringing together research and education and the things that we teach, is really critically important. And that's, I noticed that from many of the presentations that you'll be doing, that the students who are presenting have really been engaged in research themselves. And I think you'll all agree with me, it's such a fun way to learn, is to do the research yourself and to really ask the questions yourself, to design the ways to answer those questions, and then present the data in ways that are interesting for yourself and for everybody else. And then to come to conferences like this and present that information, because there's no point in doing research unless you tell somebody about it, or tell the important people about it and disseminate that research. So well done to all of you who've come along to today's to the conference, to the ACUR conference, to share your research. So Brian Schmidt, Professor Schmidt, our Vice Chancellor, has recently launched the ANU 2025 Strategic Plan. And I'm just going to, is it okay, Caitlin, if I share my screen?
Please do.
I'll give it a go anyway. So there's a little bit in the ANU 2025 that, first of all, the motto, the ANU motto, first to know the nature of things, really draws out research, but it also draws out education, because research, learning stuff is a process that is very similar to research. And I'll elaborate on that in a moment. But this little quote here in gold: at our institution's very heart is the creation of knowledge. This knowledge is the foundation of all that we do. With it, we advance human understanding. We teach our students, and we translate this knowledge to advance human prosperity. So we do research in universities. That's what we do. We create knowledge, and that's pivotal to what universities do. But we also use that knowledge to teach students, and university students are involved in that process, as you have been, of doing research themselves. And in my view, when they are involved in that research and do research, collect data, analyze data, and share their findings, is when they really excel. And that's what a university education is absolutely about. So from ANU 2025, the strategic plan, I have to create a plan about what we're going to do in education in the future. And the way I've done that is to work across the university and to develop some graduate attributes. And I'm going to share the draft graduate attributes. These have not yet been approved, but we've done a lot of consultation around the university on these. So the graduate attributes, these are the things that we really want our graduates to be able to know and do when they finish their education. And we have 3, what we're calling distinguishing graduate attributes, things that we really want ANU students to know and to be able to do. And the first one is insight into Indigenous Australian knowledges and First Nations perspectives. And this really reflects who we are as a national university, and that we really respect Indigenous knowledges, and that we feel that it's very, very important for all of our students to be engaged in positive and respectful ways with First Nations perspectives. So we have a lot of work to do in this space. And by 2025, we really hope that all of our students are able to graduate and feel that they have that attribute. The second one is the capability to employ discipline-based knowledge in transdisciplinary problem solving. And many of our researchers across the university are very clear that the big problems of today, the messy, complex ones, are not within a single discipline. They're across the disciplines, and they require multiple disciplines to come together to solve those problems. Climate change, for example, is one of those problems, where it's not just the science, but it's about the social science and many different disciplines we need to help us solve that problem. So if any of the students have been involved in the Vice Chancellor's courses, you would have been involved in this kind of problem solving. We want to scale that up to make sure that all students at the Australian National University are deeply involved in transdisciplinary problem solving. And the third graduate attribute is the aptitude for critical thinking. And this is where we're really bringing together the research and the teaching within the university. Critical thinking is about interrogating the nature of things and really asking, is that the truth of the matter? And so it's about asking questions and then designing methodologies, analysing the data and really understanding what's going on. And this is something many employers really want their staff to be able to do, and what they're looking in new employees. So they're the three together. We feel that they really reflect the Australian National University, and they're the things we want to be absolutely certain that our students are able to do. And I'm absolutely positive that the people that are presenting at the conference, at the ACUR conference, have probably really been involved in all of those, well, especially the second two, but possibly not the first one, and are really good at problem solving and also at critical thinking. So that's where we're going, and I hope that if you've got any feedback, I'd really be delighted if you shared it with me. Just pop me an email, and I'm very interested to hear. And that's where the university is going, and I'm really looking forward to the next few years in developing up how we're going to make sure those graduate attributes are embedded in everything that we do. Thank you very much. Thanks, Caitlin. I hope you have a fantastic conference. I'm so proud that ANU is deeply involved in ACUR, and I'm sure that you will learn a great deal from your colleagues and from presenting yourselves. So well done and welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, on behalf of the ACUR ANU conference team for joining us this morning and for sharing your insights around your own personal research journey, as well as how everything that we do here at the ANU connects in with the mission of supporting undergraduate research. So thank you very much for joining us. I would now like to welcome Emeritus Professor Angela Brew, the Chair of the Australasian Council for Undergraduate Research. Angela's career-long commitment to education and research includes the founding of the Council, which she has chaired since the founding of the non-profit organisation in 2012. Welcome, Angela.
Thank you, Caitlin. Well, I'd like to begin my presentation by thanking Professor Venville for hosting the ACUR conference at the ANU. It's a big commitment for a university to host an ACUR conference, and we're extremely grateful that the ANU has taken on this challenge of providing us with a stimulating conference this year. I'd also like to thank Rube, Caitlin, Ash, and all the other helpers who've been working, I know, tirelessly to bring the conference to us this morning, or today and the other days. So as you come to the conference, I'm going to be talking mainly to the students in the audience at the moment. As you come to the conference, some of you will be a group, have a group in your university, but some of you will be the only person from your university to this conference. But ACUR is a community, and by participating in the conference, you join our community of over 900 students who've previously presented at ACUR conferences. The community also includes numerous staff in member institutions and individuals who are all working to advance undergraduate research in Australasia. So the first thing I want to do today is to welcome you into the ACUR community. ACUR is part of a worldwide movement that is designed to transform universities to meet the needs of the confusing society. By being at this conference, you're participating in a worldwide community of students and staff all working to promote and advance undergraduate research. And this is a picture of students and other delegates at the Second World Congress on Undergraduate Research held in Germany in 2019. For some of you, it will be the first time that you've presented your research ever. Some of you will have presented your research in your university or in your department or school, but presenting your research in an international conference such as ACUR can be quite daunting. So I want to assure those of you who are feeling a little bit nervous that you can relax, because you have been chosen to present through a rigorous review process. You have interesting things to say, and you are among friends. As you know, the conference theme this year is Your Search, Our Future. And this challenges us to think about how our research experiences relate to the future. So let's start by thinking a little bit about our future. You're supposed to be able to see the future if you look through a crystal ball. So here's my crystal ball. What can we see in it? Well, the biggest thing we see if we look ahead is, of course, uncertainty. At the present time, I don't suppose anybody is going to disagree with this. And I like what Ngunawal, Scott and Gibbons said. They summed it up by saying, there's a high degree of uncertainty, there's no clear-cut direction, but many competing ideas, theories and methods, and no one is in overall charge. So let's just think for a moment about some of the things you need as you journey forth if you're going to be able to cope with uncertainty. What skills and abilities do you need? Well, first, you're going to need to be able to discriminate what is true and what is not true. So you need to understand the nature and the purpose of evidence. You need to know how to search for evidence and why it's important to get good evidence, the kind of evidence that you're going to present this week when you present your research. And I think that also one of the key things you need is resilience. It's about rolling with the punches and not being disheartened when things don't go quite as you expect. It's about going with unbending intent. We all have moments when things just don't go right, the experiment doesn't work, or something just doesn't go for us. And we have to have resilience to get through that. And I think you need to know that you're not alone. You need community and companionship. You know that there is help at hand. Being part of a team and being able to solve problems together. And fourthly, you need self-reliance. This is about standing on your own 2 feet and being sure of yourself. But aren't these qualities just what you gain by doing research as an undergraduate. And this is where we come to your research, the other part of the tagline for this conference. It's clear that the activities of researchers differ in different disciplines. Specific skills and techniques require to be mastered, but there is nevertheless broad agreement on how research should be conducted. If you think back to when you started to do research, you may have started with uncertainty about what you were going to do. You had to clearly specify what you were going to do. Even if your supervisor gave you the topic, you still had to get clear in your mind what it meant you had to do. You had to make a plan, timetable, and you had to keep to schedule. Perhaps your plan was a bit like this guy cycling along a straight path, but things don't always go as planned. Experiments don't always work. Situations change. You perhaps had to go into lockdown, so you have to be adaptable. You may have needed to ask for help, and when it came to presenting your research and writing a report on what you found, perhaps it took longer than you'd anticipated. All of this is good training for coping with uncertainty. Don't take my word for it. Here are the things that studies say are the things that students gain by doing research as an undergraduate. Different authors are in broad agreement. I wonder how many of these you think you've gained. Do you think that you've clarified your career goals, for example? Do you think that you have increased your self-confidence? Do you think that you've advanced your teamwork and collaboration? And guess what? Here's what employers and professional bodies demand of you, just the sorts of things you got through your research. Employers say they want students to develop a range of research and inquiry skills, critical analysis and reasoning, thinking critically and creatively, scientific and quantitative reasoning. These are the things that you have gained through doing research. And research work is increasingly inquiry-based, so you are well prepared for the world of work. Professions are increasingly inquiry-based, and employer demands point to a research-based higher education. Your research is just the start, but you're on a journey to becoming the decision makers of the future. You are the future research leaders, academics and professors. Amongst you are future doctors, politicians, architects and designers. There may even be amongst you a future Vice Chancellor or a Nobel Prize winner. You may be surprised to hear this, and sure, there's a long way to go. But I want to just recount a little story. I once met a man who had walked around the world. We were in a meeting to hear about his experiences. And a small boy who was sitting on the floor in the front put up his hand and said, "Please, sir, it's a long way round the world. How do you walk round the world?" And the man said, "Each step makes the next step possible." Presenting at ACUR may be the first step that makes the rest possible for you. And so as you journey forth on your own personal research journey, I encourage you to go boldly, to use your imagination and creativity, for who knows what where research may take you in the future. Our future will be what you make it. Those of you who are presenting your research over the next 3 days will automatically become student members of ACUR for a year. You will have access to all our resources, events and competitions, and you'll be able to participate in advancing undergraduate research across Australasia with us. You might like to start by joining our annual general meeting that's taking place on Friday afternoon. Perhaps you'd like to be more involved by joining the ACUR Student Committee, very vibrant student committee we have in ACUR, and you'll find all the details about ACUR on our website. Thank you for listening. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. If not now, then please feel free to email me after the conference, and my email address is there.
Thank you, Angela. We would like to thank you, as well as Donna Bennett and the members of the broader ACUR Executive and Student Committee for their advice and support in developing this conference. It has been an absolute pleasure to organise this year's ACUR conference and to share in your vision to support undergraduate researchers from across Australasia. So thank you very much for that warm and welcoming open address this morning. This morning you have met just a few of the people involved in bringing this conference to life. And on behalf of the project team, I would like to briefly acknowledge the generous contributions of many more. First and foremost, as the project staff, Rubai and I wish to thank Sarah Walker, Manager, Engagement and Success, and Ash Dowling, Deputy Manager, Student Development at Engagement and Success in particular, as well as the broader Engagement and Success team. It is an absolute privilege to deliver this conference with your support, and we'd like to thank you very much. Thank you to our sponsor, the Australian Bureau of Statistics, and to our supporters, the ANU Gender Institute and the John Curtin School of Medical Research. The project team has been supported by 8 ANU students in developing this conference. Thank you, Sneha Bal, Fiona Ballantyne, Lucas Greenslade, Oliver Herver, Rhiannon Sanderford, Sophia Adolfo, Cheryl Singh, and Shruti Vela. They have worked harder than we could give them credit for, and we are so grateful for your support. Thank you very much. We'd also like to thank the ANU Academic Skills team for their guidance throughout our planning and preparation process. Academic Skills has generously assisted us during the peer review process, in delivering pre-conference workshops, an in-conference workshop later this week, as well as assisting with conference judging to support student development at every stage of this process. Thank you Tui, Gillian, Viv, Ben, and to Tara for making that support possible. We're also very grateful to our team of over 150 peer reviewers and judges from around the world who have been so generous in supporting alongside their busy schedules. We would also like to extend our sincerest thanks to Lauren at the ANU Communications and Engagement Office for her support in developing and delivering the online conference ecosystem. Thank you for supporting us in elevating the online conference experience for our attendees. To all of our attendees, we hope that you will follow your academic interests and be inspired to follow new perspectives through our events program over the coming 3 days. As the conference theme, Your Search, Our Future, reminds us, today's undergraduate research is the basis of tomorrow's solutions in so many ways. Therefore, we invite all attendees to attend widely, think deeply, and engage kindly as we celebrate undergraduate research over the coming 3 days. Thank you very much.